Hi Kim, I wanted to go over your engagement activity that was the exam 4 review, and I wanted to say I'm very impressed with how you did on the word problems, especially with all that garbage you told me about how bad you do on word problems. But anyway, let's get started. You got this one and this one correct. On this one here, see, you shaded the wrong side. So when you look at this inequality, y is less than or equal to 2x, that means the line y equals 2x is here, and the solution is less than the line. It's below the line. So you just shade in the part that's below the line. Okay, and then on D, you graphed the line incorrectly, so I want to look at that. So we start with 2x minus 4y is greater than 8, and then subtract 2x from both sides, and then divide everything, and sorry, it's supposed to be greater than, divide everything by negative 4. But remember, when you divide by negative, you're going to switch the direction of the inequality. So we're dividing everything by negative 4, and that gives us y is less than, and then negative 2 divided by negative 4 is going to be a positive number, and it's going to be reduced to 1/2, and then 8 over 4 is 2. And I didn't do my negative here, so this should be minus 2. So our equation, our boundary line is going to be y equals 1/2 x minus 2. So if you come up here, you go to minus 2, which you did correctly, and then you count up 1 and over 2, so it's a positive slope. Oops. Up 1 over 2. So your line's going to be a dashed line because it's an inequality, and you got the dashed line part, but it's going to be a positive slope looking like that. And then if you look at your boundary line inequality, it says y is less than 1/2 x minus 2. That means y is less than the line, so you would shade underneath the line. On page 2, the question is, does it matter which method you use to solve? And the answer is no. Any method that you solve should produce the same answer. So you're to solve the system of equations by all 3 methods. And on the first one, you graphed the first line incorrectly. So let's look at your work here, and then let's compare it as I work it. So we have 3x plus y equals negative 7, and if you subtract 3x from both sides, you get y equals negative 3x minus 7. And I'm not sure how you did it, but you ended up with y equals x minus 7. So that's how you went wrong. So you were correct about the negative 7 being the y-intercept, but the slope, and you're correct that you had a negative slope, but you count up 6, 5, actually negative 7 would be around here. So you count up to 4 and over to 1 in the negative direction, up, over, so that you're counting up 3 and over 1. And so your line, something like that, it's supposed to go through this point here, and that point would then be your answer, which is x equals negative 4, y equals, or is that right? X equals negative 3, y equals 2. For substitution, you correctly got negative 3 and 2, and for elimination, you correctly got the same answer. Okay, on the next page, on the first problem, you got that x equals 3 and y equals 3, but if you check your work by plugging it into your equation, you'll see that 4x plus 2y does not equal 3. So that means that is not the correct solution. Okay, and I am not sure what method you were using here, but let's go ahead and use substitution, because the reason I would choose substitution is that this equation tells us what y is. So y is negative x, so we can just plug that into the first equation. So let's do that. We have 4x plus 2 and y is negative x equals 3. So that gives us 4x minus 2x equals 3, 2x equals 3, and then dividing both sides we get x equals 3 halves. So that's the first equation, and then we plug that into our second equation, and if x equals 3 halves, then y equals negative 3 halves. So that's our answer. And so the important thing to note is I chose substitution because one of my equations was already giving me what y was. In part B, you used elimination and you correctly got the answer. However, apparently you graphed one of the lines and you graphed it incorrectly. So I want to quickly graph a line to remind you of how to do that. Let's do this one. Okay, so our line is y equals negative 4/3 x plus 1/3, and I'm going to enlarge this so that I can graph it better. Okay, 1/3 is where it crosses the y-axis, so we're going to say that's about here. And then we count down 4 and over 3, and we get a point here. So our line looks something like this blue line. And just for fun, let's go ahead and graph 3x plus 2y equals 2. So we subtract 3x and we divide by 2. And then we go to our graph and find y equals 1, plot a point there, and then go down 3 and over 2, and down 3 and over 2. And so we have a line that's kind of close. It looks something like that. I didn't quite hit my points correctly. But anyway, that's just a refresher on graphing. In the last problem, you got to negative 3 equals 7, but your page cut off, so I couldn't tell what you did with that. So what you should have done is say this is a false statement, and that means there are no solutions and you have the empty set. On the next page, page 4, you did very well on D, and then on E you had a problem. On E, let's see what method you used. I think you were using the elimination method, so that's what I will use. So we are going to enlarge this, and then we're going to multiply the first equation by 2. So I'm trying to see if that's what you did. Okay, and I see the mistake you made. It was a copying error. I don't know where you got this 6. When you rearrange this equation, you should get 6x plus 2y equals 14. Okay, so here this is correct for your first equation. So for your second equation, you would have 6x plus 2y equals 14. And when you add these together, you get 0 equals 0. And when you get a solution that's 0 equals 0, that means you have the same line, and so you have infinite solutions. And you can check that by graphing both lines, and you'll see that they graph to be the same line. However, they won't be this line. You'll have, for your first equation, you'll have y equals 3 negative 3x plus 7. So you go to 7 up here. You count 1, 2, 3 down and 1 over. 1, 2, 3 down and 1 over. And so one of your lines is like this. The other line is going to be work out to the same equation, so it graphs in exactly the same way. And then, as I said earlier, you did a great job on these word problems. The last one cut off your answer for y, so you correctly got x equals 8, and you had this equation, so you could tell that if x equals 8, then y equals 22. And so what that tells you is that you have 22 balcony and 8 mezzanine. So you did a great job on these word problems, and there were just a few corrections to make on the others. Let me know if you have any questions.